Today we are picking up at chapter 18. We'll hopefully get through, I have it up there, I'll be changing it to chapter 27 this week. That's our goal. To do a little bit more review or summary of a few of the chapters and pick it up. Let's pick up the pace a little bit. We will be watching this part 2 tomorrow of the Treasure Island. Your job tomorrow will be to pick your 2 favorite similarities and your 2 least favorite differences from the video, from the movie, okay? Your 2 favorite similarities and your 2 least favorite differences. You're going to have to write about that, all right? That'll be your homework tomorrow. Here we are at Treasure Island. Jim has just run back to the, and seen the Union Jack as he was running with Ben Gunn. And while he was doing all that, Dr. Livesey took over the narration of the story. And from his perspective, he told us how we went back and forth in the jolly boats, filling things up. They stole a new guy. Who's the new guy's name that we thought might be a pirate, but turned out to be good? You guys have your maps out? Should have your character list. Who is it? Abraham Gray. Abraham Gray is our new guy. We put him over here. All right, Abraham Gray. So you should have 16 pirates crossing out 17, 18, and 19. That was Tom, Allen, and Gray. Number 9 pirate should not have an anchor next to him anymore. And why did we put a heart next to pirate number 8? Eric?
He was hurt.
Yeah, he got shot by who? Squire Trelawney. He's darn good. He can shoot. That guy knows how to shoot a weapon. I could have sworn I hit advance. There we go. Chapter, it is 18, right?
Mm-hmm.
How the ship was abandoned. It was about 1:30. Now, we've already been through this. That's my fault. It should be on page 76 on here. It's chapter 18. Is the narrative continued by the doctor, end of the first day of fighting. What page is it on the black book? Anybody find it?
124.
124. All right, page 76 on this, somewhere on your Kindle. We made our best speed across the strip of wood that now divided us from the stockade. There's trees here. They're running to the stockade. There's pirates screaming, running this way. There's guys firing the cannon at them and shooting from the Hispaniola. Soon, at every step we took, the voices of the buccaneers rang nearer. Soon we could hear their footfalls as they ran, and the cracking of the branches as they breasted across a bit of thicket. I began to see we should have a brush for it in earnest, and looked to my priming. We're going to have a fight. So I'm priming. These are the guns where you had to put the musket in, make sure everything was good, make sure your primer was ready and ready to fire. You get one shot. Captain, said I, Trelawney is the dead shot. Give him your gun. His own is useless. Why is his useless? It's broken. No. He had shot the guy that Matt said. He gets one shot. And so he needs somebody who has their gun already primed and ready to go. They exchanged guns, and Trelawney, silent and cool as he had been since the beginning of the bustle, hung a moment on his heel to see that all was fit for a service. Squire Trelawney, we portray him as a super duper, I'm better than everybody else. But here we are in a fight. He's pretty good to have around. He goes to a different level. He's in attack mode. He doesn't talk anymore. They hand him a rifle, and he's like, all right, I'm ready to drop it. At the same time, observing Gray to be unarmed, I handed him my cutlass. It did all our hearts good to see him spit in his hand, knit his brows, and make the blade sing through the air. There's your boy. Throw him a sword, and he's like, sing, 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 sing. It's like a ninja out there. Abraham Gray. Good to have around. It was plain from every line of his body that our new hand was worth his salt. 40 paces farther, we came to the edge of the wood and saw the stockade in front of us. We struck the enclosure about the middle of the south side, and almost at the same time, 7 mutineers, Job Anderson, the boatswain, at their head, appeared in full cry at the southwestern corner. So they get to this opening here, they're on the southwest corner, and boom, on the other side is Job Anderson and all the other guys. They paused as if taken aback. And before they recovered, not only the squire and I, but Hunter and Joyce from the blockhouse had time to fire. So all these pirates are coming. Ah! Oh, there they are. We've got Hunter and Joyce shooting from the inside. We've got Squire ready to fire at them from out here. The 4 shots came in rather a scattering volley, but they did the business. One of the enemy actually fell, and the rest, without hesitation, turned and plunged into the trees. One actually fell. Pirate number 16. After reloading, we walked down outside of the palisade to see to the fallen enemy. He was stone dead, shot through the heart. The palisade is another word for the fence. So the fence on the outside is called the palisade, and you climb up the sand of the stockade. We began to rejoice over our good success when just at that moment a pistol cracked in the bush. The ball whistled close past my ear, and poor Tom Redruth stumbled and fell his length on the ground. Oh, Redruth has a heartbeat, and he's hurt. He's not dead, but you're hurt, buddy. Sorry, Redruths. Both the squire and I returned the shot, but as we had nothing to aim at, it was probable we only wasted powder. Then we reloaded and turned our attention to poor Tom. The captain and Gray were already examining him, and I saw with half an eye that it was all over. I believe the readiness of our return volley had scattered the mutineers once more, for we were suffered without further molestation to get the poor old gamekeeper hoisted over the stockade and carried groaning and bleeding into the log house. Taking all the Redruth and trying to lift him over. Poor old fellow. He had not uttered one word of surprise, complaint, fear, or even acquiescence from the very beginning of our troubles till now, when we had laid him down in the log house to die. He had lain like a Trojan behind his mattress in the gallery. He had followed every order silently, doggedly, and well. He was the oldest of our party by a score of years, and now sullen, old, serviceable servant, it was he that was to die. The squire dropped down beside him on his knees and kissed his hand, crying like a child. "Be it going, doctor?" he asked. "To all my men, you're going home." "I wish I had a lick at them first, with the gun first," he replied. "Tom, say you forgive me, won't you?" "Would that be respectful like from me to you, squire?" was their answer. "However, so be it. Amen." After a little while of silence, he said he thought somebody might read a prayer. "It's custom, sir," he added apologetically, and not long after, without word, he passed away. Redruth, you got one tweet. Whoever you are, you have one more tweet. What is it you want to say? Then you rest in peace. After that, is anybody in this class, in your crew, are they Job Anderson yet? Anybody Richard in here? You are? Then let's go with pirate number 5. You're pirate number 5 if you're Redruth. If there's a pirate number 5 already, then you're pirate number 6. there's other classes that have extra people. All right? So you tweet on chapter 18 as Redruth. Chapter 19, now you're on the bad guy's side. In the meantime, the captain, whom I had observed to be wonderfully swollen about the chest and pockets, had turned out a great many various stores. He was running around looking like he had just lifted a 7-Eleven, all right? He had turned out many various stores, the British colours, a Bible, a coil of stoutish rope, pen, ink, the log book, and pounds of tobacco. He had found a longish fir tree lying felled and cleared in the enclosure, and, with the help of Hunter, he had set up at the corner of the log house where the trunks crossed and made an angle. Then, climbing on the roof, he had, with his own hand, bent and run up the colors. What are the colors? The flag. Oh! The Union Jack. What did Jim see at the end of his chapters? The Union Jack. So go ahead and put a flag here. And Captain has shown, hey, this is our fort. That's what a flag means. Just like when you run up a ship on a boat. Hey, this is our boat. This seemed mightily to relieve him. He entered the log house and set about counting up the stores as if nothing else existed. But he had an eye on Tom's passage for all that, and as soon as it was all over, came forward with another flag and reverently spread it on the body. He had 2 flags with him. One of them he laid on Redruth.
Don't you take on, sir,
He said, shaking the squire's hand.
All's well with him. No fear for a hand that's been shot down in his duty to captain and owner. It mayn't be good divinity, but it's a fact.
It may not be good theology, but I believe that if somebody dies in the act of service, they go to heaven. Then he pulled me aside.
Dr. Livesey, in how many weeks do you and Squire expect the consort?
You guys remember the name of the guy who said he was going to come for him if they didn't come home fast enough? He sold us the Hispaniola. You remember his name? It was Blandly. Blandly was the guy who sold him the boat and said, hey, I'll send you a rescue party. We got that in the letter that Jim and Redruth read. I was like, how long until these guys show up? I told them it was a question not of weeks, but of months. That if we were not back by the end of August, Blandly was to send to find us, but neither sooner nor later.
You can calculate for yourself,
I said.
Why, yes,
Returned the captain, scratching his head.
and making large allowance, sir, for all the gifts of Providence, I should say, we were pretty close hold.
How do you mean? I asked.
It's a pity, sir, we lost that second load. That's what I mean. As for powder and shot, will do, but the rations are short, very short. So short, Dr. Livesey, that went perhaps as well without that extra mouth.
Just so you know, it's probably good that Redruth is gone because we don't have enough food and water to help us out. Then he pointed to the dead body under the flag. Just then, with a roar and a whistle, a round shot passed high above the roof of the log house and plumped far beyond us in the wood.
Aha, blaze away! You've little enough powder already, my lads!
At the second trial, the aim was better and the ball descended inside the stockade, scattering a cloud of sand, but doing no further damage. Israel Hands is firing the cannon from the ship, trying to hit him in the stockade.
Captain, the house is quite invisible from the ship. It must be the flag they're aiming at. Would it not be wiser to take it in?
Like, hey, they're firing at the flag. Why don't you bring that down?
Strike my colours,
Cried the captain.
no sir, not I.
And as soon as he had said the words, I think we all agreed with him. No, leave it up there and let them fire at it. This is England's land. For it was not only a piece of stout, seemingly good feeling, it was good policy besides, and showed our enemies that we despised their cannonade. All through the evening they kept thundering away. Ball after ball flew over or fell short, or kicked up the sand of the enclosure. But they had to fire so high that the shot fell dead and buried itself in the soft sand. We had no ricochet to fear, and though one popped in through the roof of the log house and out again through the floor, we soon got used to that sort of horseplay and minded it no more than cricket.
There's one good thing about all this. The wood in front of us is lightly clear. The ebb has made a good while. Our stores should be uncovered. Volunteers to go and bring in pork?
Hey, guess what? The water, remember that the tide flows in and out, and we lost our boat. in the high tide. So anybody want to go out there and go get our supplies from that little boat? Gray and Hunter were first to come forward. Well armed, they stole out the stockade, but proved a useless mission. The mutineers were bolder than we fancied, or they put more trust in Israel's gunnery, for 4 or 5 of them were busy carrying off our stores and wading out with them to one of the gigs that lay close by, pulling an oar so that to hold her steady against the current. Silver was in the stern sheets in command, and every man of them was now provided with a musket from some secret magazine of their own. Ah, Long John Silver and all those secret weapons he had hidden now has the Hispaniola at his command, and he's got all the jolly boats now. Uh-oh. The captain sat down to his log, and here is the beginning of his entry.
Alexander Smollett, master. David Livesey, ship's doctor. Abraham Gray, carpenter's mate. John Trelawney, owner. John Hunter and Richard Joyce, owner's servants, landsmen, being all that is left faithful to the ship's company. Was stores for 10 days at short rations, came ashore this day and flew British colors on the log house in Treasure Island. Thomas Redruth, owner's servant, landsman, shot by the mutineers. James Hawkins, cabin boy. And at that time I was wondering over poor Jim Hawkins' fate. A hail on the land sides. "Somebody's hailing us," said Hunter, who was on guard. "Doctor, Squire, Captain, hello, Hunter, is that you?" came the cries. And I ran to the door in time to see Jim Hawkins, safe and sound, come climbing over the stockade. Ah, now we're back. It's the next chapter is narrative resumed by Jim Hawkins, the garrison in the stockade. So what I want to do is, I want to skip over to chapter 20 today. I want to skip over to chapter 20, and I'll read a quick review of Treasure Island here. Okay. Well, where's my review? Maybe I have to go to the F drive. I could have sworn I had it all ready for me. Sorry about those of you watching at home. What? What in the world? Alright, sorry about that. I thought I had it all brought up already. We'll go to, what chapter did we just finish? 18?
Mm-hmm.
So let's read about what happens in chapter 19. Alright, Jim takes up the narrative where he left off at the end of chapter 15. Ben Gunn tells him that he wishes to see the doctor or the squire and makes a proposal to them. It's like, hey, I want to talk to him, okay? So, Ben tells them where he may be found. The two of them then scatter in different directions when they hear the sound of cannon fire. Jim moves from one hiding place to another. He finally decides to return to the stockade. He also notes the white rock where Ben's boat may be found. So, Jim, in that chapter, notices the white rock, if you haven't drawn it already, and that's where what is stored? Ben's goat boat, right? We're assuming he makes it out of goats. So if you haven't drawn that, he sees the white rock where there's a goat boat. Jim runs over here, and then he ends up at the stockade. So that brings us to chapter 20. We also read in there that Dr. Livesey, he likes Parmesan cheese, and he had brought some Parmesan cheese with him into the stockade, just so you know. Chapter 20, sure enough, at the end of chapter 19 is where I want to start. That if you can find chapter 20 and then just the last page there, on page 83 of the red book, or page 136 of the black book, It says, the rest had long been up and had already breakfasted and increased the pile of firewood by about half as much again, when I was awakened by a bustle and the sound of voices. So everybody, we're in the next morning after Jim had showed up at the stockade, and he's told everybody his story about who this Ben Gunn guy was, and he wakes up to somebody, and he thinks it's Hunter, say, hey, flag a truce! I heard someone say, and then immediately after, with a cry of surprise, it's Silver himself! And at that, up I jumped, and rubbing my eyes, ran to a loophole in the wall. A loophole is a place for where you can stick a gun outside and look outside and be able to shoot. He looks in up there, and now we're on chapter 20, where it says, sure enough, there were two men just outside the stockade, one of them waving a white cloth, the other no less a person than Silver himself, standing placidly by. It was still quite early, and the coldest morning that I think I ever was abroad in, and a chill that pierced into the marrow. So, there's two guys down by the fence. One of them, Long John Silver. The other guy, waving a flag. And Long John's just sitting there with his crutch and his peg leg. Hi, how's it going? That's what it means by placidly. Just calm, no problems. The sky was bright and cloudless overhead, and the tops of the trees shone rosily in the sun. But where Silver stood with his lieutenant, all was still in shadow, and they waded knee-deep in a low white vapor that had crawled during the night out of the morass. So there's this fog around their knees. And remember the captain saying something about, or Dr. Livesey saying it's something like there's a fever here. There's some sort of nastiness on this island, and you can smell it. And these guys are standing knee-deep in some weird fog. The chill and the vapor taken together told the poor tale of the island. It was plainly a damp, feverish, unhealthy spot. Keep it to those men, 10 to 1, this is a trick. Then he hailed the buccaneer. Who goes? Stand or we fire. Fly the truce! Cried Silver. The captain was in the porch, keeping himself carefully out of the treacherous shot, should any be intended. He turned and spoke to us. Doctor's watch on the lookout. Dr. Livesey, take the north side, if you please. Jim, the east. Gray, west. The watch below. All hands to load muskets, lively men and careful. Gives orders. Captain's always on top of things. You hired a great captain, good job. And then he turned again to the mutineers. And what do you want with your flag of truce? He cried. This time it was the other man who replied. Captain Silver, sir, to come on board and make terms, he shouted. Captain Silver? Don't know him. Who's he? Cried the captain. And we could hear him adding to himself, Captain is in my heart. Here's a promotion. Long John answered for himself. Me, sir, these poor lads have chosen me captain after your desertion, laying a particular emphasis upon the word desertion. We're willing to submit if we can come to terms and no bones about it. All I ask is your word, Captain Smollett. Let me safe and sound out of this here stockade in 1 minute to get out of shot before guns fired. Hey, you're the one who deserted us. Just we want to talk before you shoot at me again. My man, I have not the slightest desire to talk to you. If you wish to talk to me, you can come, that's all. If there's any treachery, it'll be on your side, and the Lord help you. If anybody's going to be a bad guy, Savannah, it's going to be you. Aren't you Long John Silver? Who's Long John Silver here? You're the bad guys, right? Right? But he makes a pretty good point. You left us, man. You started shooting at us. You pulled guns on us. While we were in, our guys told us you were on the boat. And you pulled guns on them. What's the problem? We could see the man. Oh wait, it'll be on your side. The Lord help you. Oh, that's enough, Captain, shouted Long John cheerily. A word from you is enough. I know a gentleman, you may lay to that. Hey, I know a good guy. We could see that the man who carried the flag of truce attempting to hold Silver back. Nor was that wonderful, seeing how cavalier had been the captain's answer. But Silver laughed at him aloud and slapped him on the back as if the idea of alarm had been absurd. Then he advanced to the stockade, threw his crutch, got a leg up, and with great vigor and skill succeeded in surmounting the fence and dropping safely to the other side. Long John's like, I'll be fine. The other pirate's like, no, go, man, they're gonna kill you. Nah, he's a gentleman, he'll let me be. So he climbs over with one leg. Now he's gotta come up this hill to the stockade. I will confess that I was far too much taken up with what was going on to be the slightest use as a sentry. Sentry? He's like, I'm not a very good sentry. Means to be a guard. SENT means to feel, sentry or sensors. So he was not being a very good guard. Indeed, I had already deserted my eastern loophole. He's supposed to be over there looking out the window to see if anybody's coming, and now he's watching Long John Silver climb up the sand. I had already deserted my eastern loophole and crept up behind the captain, who had now seated himself on the threshold, with his elbows on his knees, and his head in his hands, and his eyes fixed on the water, as it bubbled out of the iron kettle and the sand. He was whistling to himself, "Come lasses and lads." So here's Captain, he's just sitting here, doesn't even know, he's just kind of playing it cool, and here comes Long John Silver. Silver had a terrible hard work getting up the knoll. What with the steepness of the incline, the thick tree stumps, and the soft stand, he and his crutch were as helpless in a ship's stays. But he stuck to it like a man in silence, and at last arrived before the captain, whom he saluted in the handsomest style. He was tricked out in his best, an immense blue coat with thick brass buttons hung low to his knees, and a fine laced hat was set on the back of his head. Long John's looking pretty good.
Captain Long John. Here you are, my man,
said Captain, raising his head.
You'd better sit down. You ain't gonna let me inside, Captain?
Complained Long John.
It's a main cold morning, to be sure. Sit outside upon the sand. Why, Silver? If you had pleased to be an honest man, you might have been sitting in your gallery. It's your own doing. You're either my ship's cook, and then you were treated handsome, or Captain Silver, a common mutineer and pirate, then you can go hang.
You'd have a nice warm spot inside inside the ship right now if you wouldn't have been a mutineer, so don't be complaining about being cold outside.
Well, Captain,
returned the sea cook, sitting down as he was bidden on the sand.
You have to give me a hand up again, that's all. Sweet, pretty place you have here. Oh, there's Jim, the top of the morning to you, Jim. Doctor, here's my service. Why, there you all are together like a happy family, in a manner of speaking,
seeing all who's inside.
You have something to say, man? Better say it,
said the captain.
All right, right you are, Captain Smollett,
replied Silver.
Duty is duty, to be sure. Well, now, you look here. That was a good lay of yours last night. I don't deny it was a good lay. Some of you pretty handy with a hand spiking. And I'll not deny neither, but what some of us was shook. Maybe all was shook, and I was shook myself. Maybe that's why I'm here for terms. But you mark me, Captain, it won't do twice, by thunder. I'll have to do sentry go, and ease off a point or two at a rum. Maybe you think that we were all as sheets fire in the wind, but I'll tell you I was sober. I was only dog tired. And if I'd have woke a second sooner, I'd have caught you in the act, I would. He wasn't dead when I got round to him, not he.
What? Long John's talking about somebody's good with a hand spike? We will have to keep watch? He wasn't dead when I got there? What? Well, says Captain Smollett, as cool as can be. All that Silver said was a riddle to him, but you would never have guessed it from his tone. As for me, I began to have an inkling. Ben Gunn's last words came back to my mind, and I began to suppose that he had paid the Buccaneers a visit while they all lay drunk together round their fire. And I reckoned up with glee that we only had 14 enemies to deal with. Pirate number 15, taken out by Ben Gunn. Nice job, Ben Gunn. Nice job, Ben Gunn. We took out pirate numbers 16 and 15, if you don't have that. And then Redruth got shot and is dead. So you want to update your map.
Well, here it is, said Silver. We want our treasure, and we'll have it. That's our point. You just as soon save your lives, I reckon. That's yours. You have a chart, haven't you? that as may be. Oh, well, you have, I know that, returned Long John. You needn't be so husky with a man. There ain't no particular service in that, and you may lay to it. What I mean is, we want you chopped. Now, I never meant you no harm myself. That won't do with me, my men, interrupted Captain. We know exactly what you mean to do, and we don't care. For now, you see, you can't do it. And Captain looked at him calmly and proceeded to fill a pipe. If Abe Gray, Silver broke up, avast there. Gray told me nothing, and I asked him nothing, and what's more, I would see you and him and this whole island blown clean out of the water into blazes first. So there's my mind for you, my man, on that. Now, Abraham Gray didn't tell me what your guys' plans were. I've known it all along. Like enough, I would set no limits to what gentlemen might consider shipshape, or might not, as the case were. And seeing as how you're about to take a pipe, Captain, I'll make so free to do likewise. And he filled the pipe and lighted it. So now these guys, after a little bit of jawing, are both just sitting there in the quiet smoking. And he filled the pipe and lighted it. And the two men sat silently smoking for quite a while. And now looking at each other in the face, now stopping their tobacco, now leaning forward to spit. It was a good play to see them. Now, resumed Silver, here it is. You give us a chart to get the treasure by, and drop shooting poor seamen and stoving their heads in while they sleep. You do that, we'll offer you a choice. Either you come aboard along with us once the treasure is shipped, then I'll give you my affidavit upon my word of honor to clap you somewhere safe for shore. Or if that ain't to your fancy, some of my hands being rough and having old scores on account of hazing, and you can stay here, you can. We'll divide stores with you, man for man, and I'll give my affidavit as before to speak the first ship I sight, and send him here to pick you up. Now you'll own that stocking, handsomer you couldn't get in all year, and I hope that all hands in this here blockhouse will overhaul my words, for what is spoke to one is spoke to all. Hey, I'll do my best. I'll drop you off somewhere. Heck, I'll even find the first boat I see and say, hey, we didn't have enough supplies. Go get these guys. I promise. I give you I cross my heart affidavit. Captain Smollett rose from his seat, knocked the ashes out of his pipe from his left hand. Is that all? He asked. Every last word, by thunder, answered John. Refuse that, and you've seen the last of me but musket balls. Very good, said the captain. Now you'll hear me. If you'll come up one by one unarmed, I'll engage to clap you all in irons, take you home to fair trial in England. If you want, my name is Alexander Smollett. I've flown my southern colours, and I'll see you to the Davy Jones. You can't find the treasure. You can't sail a ship. There's not a man among you fit to sail the ship. You can't fight us. Gray there got away from 5 of you. Your ship's in irons, Master Silver. You're on a lee shore, you'll find. I stand here and tell you so. And they're the last good words you'll get from me. For the name of heaven, I'll put a bullet in your back when next time I meet you. Trap, my lad, bundle out of this, please, hand over hand and double quick. Silver's face was a picture. His eyes started in his head with wrath. He shook the fire out of his pipe. Give me a hand up, he cried. Not I. Well, who give me a hand up? He roared. Not a man among us moved. Growling the foulest imprecations, he crawled along the sand till he got a hold of the porch, could hoist himself up on his crutch. Then he spat into the spring, right into her water. There, that's what I think of you. Before an hour's out, I'll stove in your blockhouse like a rum puncheon. Laugh, by thunder, laugh. Before an hour's out, you'll laugh upon the other side. Them that die will be the lucky ones. And with a dreadful oath, he stumbled off, plowed down the sand, and was helped across the stockade, after 4 or 5 failures, by the man with the flag of truce, and disappeared in an instant afterwards among the trees. Long John says that within an hour, you're all going to be dead. I gave you a choice. We'll see what happens. Can you click me off? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.